Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. AITA for admitting I regret having children. My wife and I are both 42 years old, and we are now undergoing marital counseling since our marriage was on the verge of disintegrating after we had children, 6- and 4-year-old twins. There have been many difficulties and disagreements in our marriage that have caused us to become estranged, and I've been working through my resentment that returning for one more child resulted in twins, one of whom we're quite certain has ADHD and ODD and is a miserable child. When our counselor inquired as to whether I would have children if I had the opportunity to do it all over again, I said, honestly, I would not. However, given the opportunity to go back in time to the age of 24, when I finished graduate school and renew my life, I would not choose to be a parent. Instead, I would choose to be a writer. Having children is not the gratifying experience that everyone claims it to be, and despite my fondness for my children, the sacrifices are not worth it to me. In my previous life, I had a much better quality of life. Since having children, I've gone from being someone who enjoyed life to someone who just gets through the day, working at something he despises in order to provide for his wife and children, while secretly wishing that this wasn't my life. Our 6-year-old is told that Papa wishes you had never been born, which makes my wife upset and makes me enraged because she misinterprets the situation. You don't say something like that to a child. No doubt, I would have preferred not to have had children, but I love them and would never harm or disrupt them in any way. And I have never spoken anything like that to or in front of my children, and I will never do so. In marriage counseling, I mentioned that there should be a safe space where people may express their feelings. As a result, we've gotten into a huge fight, and I know she'll try to use it against me in divorce court to get sole custody, steal everything, and lie to the children, whom I love and for whom I still want to be a father. She is impossible to grasp how you can enjoy your children while still feeling that being a mother was the best choice you could have made. AITA, on the other hand, for stating it. Update. Well, this is blown up in my face, and I'm not going to be able to reply to everyone's questions right now. However, in order to allay a few fears, I have 3 rather than 4 children instead. One of the children is 6 years old, and the other is 4 years old, and they live together. Even though English is not my first language and I made the mistake of forgetting the comma, the sentence would have been more clear if it had been written in my original language. When I claim that having twins is a bad experience, I'm not criticizing my wife. However, 3 children is more than we had budgeted for, and I've had to pick up a lot of things that I wouldn't have had to pick up if we had just 2 children, which is something I despise, along with the kid who has ADHD or ODD. Most of my time is spent working and juggling the needs of my children. And do you have a clear understanding of what ODD is? He routinely refuses to do what is asked of him, gets upset, and throws a tantrum when asked to do anything he does not want to do, punches and kicks others, purposely annoys and damages others, is very spiteful and yells and kicks me in the face. Always. Throughout the course of the day, every day of the week. It's exhausting and unappealing. Yeah, I never have him back in my life. If they were forced to raise him, the vast majority of people would refuse. Despite the fact that I wouldn't repeat the experience, it does not imply that I am not committed to being a good parent and being active in their lives. If I had the chance to go back in time and rebuild my adult life, I would not alter a thing, because I would change various other aspects of my post-university life, most notably my job, and because, after all of this, I regret marrying my wife. I indicated that my first kid was not born until I was 24 years old. Look up what it means to refer to the ADHD/ODD twin as a nightmare on the internet. My son's behavior is difficult to regulate, and he's been kicked out of 3 daycare centers because they couldn't handle him. My parents have even refused to babysit him because of his behavior. We never have time away from home, and no one is able to manage their time well. Story 2. AITA for getting a guy fired for confronting me in the lobby where my dad works. By the way, this happened on Thursday, just in case you were wondering. My father is an executive at a company that specializes in media technologies. Before COVID, I was a regular after-school visitor, 16-year-old male. It's a substantial building. Given that some of the offices are closed as a result of people working from home, there are less people in the lobby than there used to be. Due to the fact that my father was attending a conference and that we were planning to go out to lunch afterwards, my mother dropped me off there. The guy across the hall from me is still gazing at me while I'm standing in the foyer with my bag on my shoulder. He's with a bunch of other people who are also there. Due to the huge size of the lobby, there are often people taking their lunch break in the space. Then he comes up to me and asks whether I work in the building, which he does in a friendly manner. I'm not sure why he inquired, given that it's obvious that I don't work there. Each and every other person is dressed in suits, with their security badges clearly apparent. I told him that I was awaiting the arrival of a guest. He argues that only employees are authorized to enter the lobby as a result of COVID. It's a whole load of. These kinds of restrictions had not been established by them. He, on the other hand, would not let me go. In response to his request that a security guard escort me out, he was informed that this was not possible. He was upset at this point and informed me that a large number of homeless individuals had come in lying about their situation as well, and that I should just go. He was assured by the security guy at the front desk that I was authorized to be in the building. It swung back and forth for nearly 5 minutes before stopping. Already, I'm becoming frustrated. So I just told him to off as soon as possible. As soon as I revealed who my father was, he laughed, as if he didn't believe me at first. After receiving a text message from my father informing me that he was outside, all I could think was, whatever. My father noticed that I was upset in the car, and when I explained what had happened, he asked me if I remembered the guy's name, whether he stated which department he worked for, and what he was wearing. I told him what had happened, and he asked me if I remembered his name, whether he stated which department he worked for, and what he was wearing. I just relayed what I recalled to him. He ultimately found out who he was and dialed his employer's phone number. They were able to free the guy. My father says that the guy should have known better than to mislead them or cause such a disturbance in their apartment complex. He told me to put the book down on the table. Honestly, I didn't think they would go that far with the story. My father was enraged by the situation. It's something I'm still thinking about. It would have been better if I hadn't said anything at all. Yes, he was acting in a jerkish manner, and I was furious. Is it still considered a jerk if I had a role in his dismissal? Update. Since writing my previous essay, I've tried to contact my father once more, but have been unsuccessful. Even if he didn't want to tell me anything before, I informed him that I was concerned about the individual and that I wasn't sure whether it would be unreasonable to terminate him. My father expressed regret for deferring it. The reason for this is because they are plainly unable to disclose into detail about an employee, since doing so would breach their privacy. He did tell me, though, that they had previously expressed worries about him, despite the fact that he had only been employed by the company for a few months. As soon as I told him about the individual, he got a strong sensation that he knew who it was, but he wanted confirmation from me before reporting it to the guy's supervisor from that particular department. I was not allowed to speak with my father about the situation, but he did inform me that he had accrued an excessive amount of strikes since he was terminated. The rest of what the individual accomplished is a mystery to me. It was my father who informed me that this was not the first time something like this had occurred. That's all I recall. When I was in the lobby the final time, waiting for my father to end his workday, the head security officer, not the one who had been there on the actual day, came up to me and introduced himself, since we had known each other for years. He told me that he had learned of what had occurred and expressed regret that he couldn't be there to say anything. But in his own words, he's relieved that they were able to free him because he was mad. At the very least, I now know that it wasn't because of what I said or because of my father's position in the company that he was dismissed, even if it seems that he was generating other problems as well. I'm grateful that one of the comments pushed me to talk with my father about it, since I no longer feel as bad about what happened. Because he was upfront about it, I don't feel bad about it anymore. I don't believe it either. Thank you for all of your words of encouragement and for pointing out that this was most likely not the first time the individual has created problems for me. I appreciate it very much. It turns out that you were accurate.